Welcome to the third episode of Bitesized Expertise by Contextual Solutions. I'm Elif Kocaoğlu-Ulrich, and today I'm here with Anne Leslie from IBM. And today we're going to talk about leadership, a topic Anne has a lot of experience about. So Anne, before we dive deeper into the topic and define what leadership is and the qualities, can we actually hear your leadership story and what brought you here?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So today I'm the IBM Cloud for Financial Services Cloud Risk and Controls Leader, which is a very long title, but it's a label that I've had for the last 2.5 years. But I've had lots of other labels in my life, and I have been a stay-at-home parent. I was with my kids for over a decade, full-time homemaker. I've worked in banking, I've worked in insurance, I've sold software. And I think a lot of my leadership journey has been learning to be a leader of myself, and sort of accepting all these pieces of my life and things that I've done and things that I've failed at, but learning that all of those things have made me what I am and who I am today. So I'm really looking forward to talking more about that and how we show up as leaders in our lives and also in our roles.
That's an excellent explanation. So basically owning your personality and all your weirdnesses and your exceptional skills as a whole. Is that correct?
I think so. I think that's one of the things that has been the most impactful for me is making peace with the parts of me that I don't like so much. I think everybody has parts of us, that we're more or less comfortable with, but they're part of who we are. And I think is it Carl Jung maybe that used to, he called it our shadow, and learning to cohabit peacefully with our shadow, being aware of it. And I think that's one of the most important things that any of us can do when we're thinking about leadership is how we show up and knowing and having that level of self-awareness of how we are for others, because our view of ourselves can sometimes be very different to how other people perceive us. And a big part of building up that self-awareness is getting comfortable with all of our whole selves, the parts we like, the parts we don't like so much, and realizing that it's okay. We're not striving for perfection. We want to be good people, good humans.
Wow, that's really profound. And then, how do we move on to define leadership? Like, what differentiates a leader?
So I was thinking a lot about that when I was preparing for this, and so I was thinking, wow, it's such a vast topic. I'm going to have the humility to say that I haven't got the whole answer on that, because it's still something that I think about every day. I don't think I've got leadership cracked, and I think good leaders have that humility to recognize that it's constant work. It's every day learning about ourselves, learning about the world that's changing around us, learning about the people, and the dimensions of how we situate ourselves. It's really easy to kind of think about leaders, and I know I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure I'm not alone in this. If somebody says the word leader, I will immediately think of big corporate, right? And sort of an executive. And I have a stereotype in my mind of what that person might look like. Leaders, I have come to discover, there's so many flavors of leadership. And it's not because you are endowed with a big title and maybe a huge salary and you're in a big company. You have leadership that comes with the role title. But I think you're only really a leader when people want to follow you. There are people who will follow you because they have to. The org chart says, you're up here, I'm down here, you're the leader, I have to do what you tell me. The most powerful leaders that I have had the good fortune to learn from and to follow, sometimes they were people who were above me because the hierarchy said they were. But the people that I have found the most inspiring, and the people that have helped me grow, and the people that I've enjoyed working with and for, they're people who had characteristics which were curiosity. They were demanding in terms of they wanted to strive and achieve. You know, there was a desire to do good work. So we were pushed, but there was a humanity in how they showed up as people. And I value that. And that's something that I try to embody, which is treat people the way I like to be treated and respect people and ask and constantly be curious and wonder what's going on with people and wonder what they care about. And I think that's one of the things that really does characterize people, that bring people with them, leaders who bring people with them, is a caring. I think making others feel that they are cared for and valued is immensely powerful. And it's not fluffy. Like, it's not the stuff that you sort of see in a Hallmark greetings card. It's real. When people feel cared for, they go above and beyond. When people feel valued, they will push the boundaries and go the extra mile. And I think that's what amazing leaders do, is they bring out the best in people, and people dig deep, and it can be hard, but it's not draining. There's a kind of a self-renewing energy that comes from being in the company of a good leader. You feel safe. You feel like they've got you. They might push you. They probably will stretch you. But that growth is okay, because you know that no matter what happens, they're not going to throw you under the bus. They've got you, and they will protect you in a certain way. Those characteristics of caring and psychological safety, I think, are always present in the good leaders that I observe and the good leaders that I have the good fortune to be around.
That's an amazing description, and I'm sure it resonated well with everyone who was listening or will listen later. The thing is, your description, so basically inspiring, empathetic, and sincere, and pushing the boundaries. These sort of things. These are the qualities that you look for, in a leader. But these are not necessarily the qualities your managers possess, unfortunately. And it makes you indeed think, okay, who are the people around me that possess these qualities? But they don't necessarily have the titles or the ranks for this. But like you said, maybe there are grocery store owners, or I don't know, like church like priests, or like imams, or like small community leaders that you don't necessarily see out there, that are not PR boosted, but really lead with example. And that's really beautiful.
Totally. Yeah.
And when you apply this to a bigger organization, then I think it gets harder, because you can spot these people, especially in smaller communities or cities. You can see these people and spot these people. But how about in a big organization? How would you differentiate yourself in a big company or an organization like IBM or like a big tech? How do you make yourself visible?
So again, I spent a lot of time thinking about this and trying to think about what can I tell your audience that's helpful, right? That will be something that they can take away with them. And I don't want to claim to have the truth on this. I just want to share what I have learned, and maybe mistakes that I have made that might be like guardrails of things to think about, right? I'm not giving a cookie cutter recipe of this is how you do it. But when we think about leadership, I wish I had known earlier, or I wish I had thought earlier in my career about the kind of person I want to be and the things that I value. And I wish that I had been encouraged younger to do that level of introspection. And I'm talking about it a lot in this conversation, but it really is foundational. And what I have seen is that quite often people go on that journey inwards later in their careers. It could be in their 40s, maybe in their 50s, because something happens. There's some kind of event. It might be some kind of crisis. It could be an episode of burnout, depression, something really uncomfortable and generally quite profound happens. And they go looking for, they start having all these questions and going looking for answers. And I really encourage the younger people that I mentor to start doing that before there's a crisis. Start getting to know yourself as young as you can. If you're in your 20s, start then. If you're it's never too late, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age, but if you can start doing that before there is a problem, you're setting yourself up so much better to be on a track where you're growing and you're learning and you're developing, but you're not going to find yourself in a position at some stage going, well, hang on a sec. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I don't know why I'm putting so much into something that maybe doesn't resonate with me, doesn't make sense with me, isn't aligned with my values. And I saw that in so many people. It's unfortunate, but in so many people, sometimes in their 50s, who have spent many years striving and externally so much success. You know, they have status, they have professional accolades, they have garnered the respect of people in the industry. But there comes a time of going, if I had to do it over, I wouldn't have put myself on that track. And the other thing that happens is people invest so much in climbing a career ladder because something is pushing them. And it's not always conscious. We don't always know what our drivers are. We don't always know why our ambition, why we have it so strongly. Sometimes it's not even ours, we inherit it. We're trying to impress other people, but we don't realize it. And it can be really hard for people who spend 15, sometimes 20 years climbing a career ladder and making a lot of sacrifices along the way to reach the top of their organization or the top of their team or whatever objective they've set themselves, and suddenly go, but I can't opt out now. All of that sacrifice and all of that effort and all of that blood, sweat, and tears that I put in, it can't have been for nothing. So I really encourage people to question themselves gently, with compassion, with kindness, and say, why do I want what I want? If I'm aiming for a leadership position, no, I'm not saying this is wrong. If you want a leadership position because it comes with status and wealth, go for it. But just be really sure that is what you want. And just be really sure that when you go through what you will need to go through to get there, that it will be worthwhile. So these are conversations we can only have with ourselves. And I recommend that everybody has them and we have really honest conversations and we own our decisions. I'm not ever going to judge somebody who wants to go and climb to the top of the pyramid and, have all the glory that comes with that. Go for it. If that is what you want, be excellent at it. The thing is that I just see people who sometimes sacrifice an awful lot in the pursuit of something and then realize it's not really who I am. So the best leaders are ones who are able to express their truest selves and bring people with them and run a business. And you can't show up as your truest self unless it really is in alignment with who you are and it resonates. That's the key. And I think that we, as as society, but there's a rethinking about what it means to succeed. And you can be an amazing people leader without having to be potentially as high up in an organization. You can have an incredible impact on people's lives and you can do amazing work without necessarily being at the top of the food chain. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned for myself. I know around me in my kind of network of peers, same thing. People realizing I fit better here. This is where I can do my best work. This is where I can contribute. This is where my purest impact can be felt. And it just comes from, again, that self-awareness, the introspection, and the courage to own what we really want and what resonates with us.
That's actually the core of all the problems we are having as societies these days, all the political and economical problems, I guess, like the lack of self-awareness and not knowing what you really want from life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. You know, we're not schooled. Like, nobody brings us into school, unfortunately, and teaches us emotional intelligence. We are pushed for academic excellence. We are pushed to compete. We are pushed to achieve. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you're doing harm to nobody, including yourself. And I worry about the people who push themselves very, very hard, but when you ask them why they're doing it, look kind of blankly back and go, it's kind of my default. This is just the way I am. And those people have a tendency to burn out at some stage, and it's avoidable. So to the extent I can, in my tiny part of the universe, when people ask me for, you know, guidance and advice or things that I found helpful, those conversations with myself where I'm really honest about what matters to me and what I value, invaluable.
Excellent. And I mean, if we flip the coin a bit, let's assume that we are an integral part of an organization, of a big company or a bank. And we are excellent at our job. We are doing compliance, IT, whatever. But then, you know, we just don't have the opportunity to shine. And then we just wait for our superiors or our managers to come and see us and to discover our inner beauty or, the potential we have. But then, you know, coming back to your point, if you don't know your greater purpose in life or, you know, what you want from life, this won't ever happen because, if you don't know what to do with yourself, how would the organization know what to do with you, right? I mean,
absolutely. And there are multiple dimensions, I think, to what you just outlined. Sometimes we could be in an organization, and I've seen this prior to joining IBM, and I've seen it in people in sort of friends and family as well. Sometimes you might not be in the right environment. That can happen, right? And you could be doing everything right, and the environment is just not one for you. But let's assume you are in a good environment, right? You're in a healthy workplace, and you've got good colleagues and a good manager around you. But people are busy, and they don't notice everything, and the things that, you know, we might think are important don't get picked up by our colleagues and peers and management line the same way that we're seeing them. Network. I think one of the things I always tell people is nurture your network, expand it, get to know as many people as you can, find out what they're working on, be super curious, ask lots of questions, learn about what else is going on in the organization. Because again, I learned this through trial and error. It wasn't that I had a master plan, but I learned just by enjoying the company of people and being curious about them. Great opportunities have come my way because I explored kind of that gap in between what I do, what they do, and there's something in the middle that we could actually exploit, that could add value to customers. So things that are kind of unexplored adjacencies in between functional areas, in between teams. And you can only really find out about that when you have that mindset of wanting to understand. Tell me about what you're doing. What are you working on? What challenges have your customers got? That kind of thing. And it's an iterative practice. I'd say it's not something that you're going to have a conversation. Well, it could happen, but this is something that I tend to do as a good habit. I network internally and I network externally as much as I can, because opportunities come from conversation. The other thing is, make it known gently. Now, you don't have to go around with a banner, but do articulate what it is you want and provoke opportunities to discuss with your management line and your direct manager the ambitions you have for yourself, and come with some degree of clarity. Like rocking up and saying, well, I want to be a leader. I don't know how well that conversation is going to go, but if you can articulate how you want to grow your career in terms of what matters to you and how that aligns with what the organization is trying to achieve, so that it's a pie where everybody wins. you want to grow your career and you want to grow and bring skills, and you see how you want to fit in, if you're able to start articulating that, a good manager will help you build it out, flesh it out, and start having, you know, a stepwise approach to achieving the objectives. But a lot of people, actually, I'm really encouraged by seeing younger people. Younger people are way better than my generation doing this, saying what they want, putting words on it, and it's great. Keep doing that. So being clear, well, as clear as you can, about where you want to go, and I'd always leave some room for flex. Right? There's so many good things that can come just from serendipity. So it's good to have a plan, but stay open. Stay open to other good things that might come your way. And I think there's an element of patience. Don't be too impatient. Find the balance between one, especially people who have a lot of potential, people who are smart, people who have a lot of energy. There can be a temptation to want things to go too fast. And in large organizations function on their own clock. So we have to be mindful of how the organizational ecosystem around us functions, and just be realistic about the mechanics of that, particularly in really large multinational organizations. So I think just articulate and make it known that you're looking to grow, network internally and externally, build up your eminence, get known for something. And social media is great for this. Use it mindfully. It's incredibly powerful. Videos, presence on platforms like X, writing. It is such an underestimated skill. Now, I know not everybody enjoys it. I'm not a writer. If you have any inclination to write, but you're just a little bit hesitant, there's so much value in terms of establishing your credibility, your subject matter expertise, so much reusable value coming. And if you think that, well, who am I to start opining on a given topic? Your opinion's as good as anybody's. There's so many people out in the world who have not got a clue about so many things, and yet nothing stops them. So if you do have a skill, and if you do have an opinion, be mindful about how you share it. But it's one way of getting noticed, and it's one way of establishing that you do know your stuff and that you can contribute. And I'm a big believer in doing what you can where you are with what you've got. We've all got more tools than I think we sometimes give ourselves credit for.
Definitely. And speaking of the power of writing, actually, this is how we met. So just as a context, like Anne was editing the book we were writing on the AI book that got published in 2020, which also shows what a visionary she is, because, we were writing a book about AI before, AI was hyped. So just something to talk about, but, how you can actually convert your passion into something more tangible if you have expertise and, show it and demonstrate it with writing, and that would definitely contribute to your success, right? To your growth in your career.
I mean, this is a really good example, right? So you and I kind of met virtually through that collaboration on the AI book. We stayed in contact. You reached out, suggested this. This is how great networks function, right? And there's a kind of a reciprocity and a give and take, a shared interest, a willingness to give. Never underestimate the power of just being a person that other people like to be around. You talk about likable leaders. Is it dangerous being too likable? Do you have to have authority? Different roles require different things. Different organizations value different things. But it has been my experience that building up a genuine likable quality, that people value your expertise for sure, but they just like being around you. If you're looking to be a leader that people want to follow, cultivate that. You'll get so much out of the relationships that you have, and you'll get stuff done. People sometimes say to me, wow, did you get that to happen? I asked. And they said yes. And it's not insignificant. When people like you, they will help you. And we all need help to get things done. So I currently don't run a big team. I collaborate horizontally, extensively. And I need help from people and contributions from people, because we're working on kind of multidisciplinary things, big problem spaces that require 3, 4, 5, many teams involved. I've got no authority over these people, but they do contribute to me. Sorry, they contribute to the work that I'm doing because they believe more or less the same thing I believe in terms of what's important. And also, we enjoy each other's company. So when I say, oh, I've got this thing for one of our big clients, could we huddle for 15 minutes? They go, yeah, sure. And that kind of collaboration is priceless. So as people grow on their leadership journeys, yes, you'll be able to make stuff happen. If you start getting into a role and you have, for want of a better term, command and control over colleagues, the thing that will, I think, make the difference is the human connection that you have with people and their willingness to actually build with you.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, this shows that you don't need a big team. You don't need to have authority over, a big group of people just to have impact or just to create something meaningful, right? And this is actually the problem with the corporate understanding. So a lot of people think that they need to have like a big leadership group or, have voice over a lot of people just to be impactful. But also there are a lot of roles that actually highlight the expertise. So project management roles or expert roles that just, allow people to work in different verticals, right, and create really meaningful projects. But you don't need to be a leader if you don't want to, or if that's not, suited to you, because that shouldn't be the end goal. And this is what we understand nowadays.
Absolutely. And there are multiple ways of being a leader, exactly what you've described, right? Now, there are still people, quite a few people out there, who value territory, right? There are people who do, for whatever reason, they value the status that comes with a title, and it is important to them how many direct reports they have. Okay. There are also people who have tiny teams or no teams, but they have huge impact. And this is my opinion. I'm not stating it as truth, but it's just in terms of the work that I enjoy doing, and when I've seen the difference between projects that deliver and that people are proud to be in and people enjoy being in, and other ones where there's maybe a bit of a stick coming down because there's a very authoritarian person driving it, the experience is very, very different. And you could say, well, it's a judgment call. That's maybe just their style. I measure it in terms of what the outcome is. Do we get a better outcome in terms of the objectives, in terms of what we're trying to deliver for a client, for example? My personal experience has been that when the people feel safe in the environment in which they're working, when they feel challenged but supported, when they feel that they have a leader who cares and is there to remove obstacles as opposed to chastise and criticize and punish, the result for the client is far superior. So I measure it in terms of outcomes and impact. And I have seen the difference in terms of what good leadership can do.
You have explained the topic excellently. Like it's, I think now it's like a masterclass of leadership. But before we switch lanes and talk about your expertise in cybersecurity and AI, I would also talk a bit about the female leadership aspect. So the challenges women leaders face when they're growing or when they want to grow in an organization. So do you have any tips as a role model and as an active mentor? Like, what would you recommend, or anything that you want to say about the topic?
So it's a complex topic, right? One of the things that I do encourage all women who are doing well to do is not to forget the struggle. And I see that a lot. I see quite a lot of women who much, in terms of seniority, people who could be much more senior than me, but it's easy to forget that it has been hard. And what I always try and do is that if somebody reaches out to me and says, found you on LinkedIn or saw you on social media or met you at an event, I'd really value some of your time. To the extent I can, I don't ever say no. Like my calendar would need to be really, really backed up for me to say no. And even if it was, I'd say, listen, can't do it for the next 3 weeks, but we will grab 30 minutes. Because you never know what that 30 minutes could mean to that person. And I've had people be incredibly generous with me. I've done a lot of hard work myself to get where I am, but people open doors for me. And I kind of feel that I have a responsibility to reciprocate and do what I can to open doors for other people. So that's one aspect of it is, once you're doing well, pay it forward, help other people. The other thing that I have found is that I used to get quite defensive, particularly in environments where I might be the only, it still happens, where I might be the only woman in the room. That used to make me feel defensive, and it would come out with a sort of breathlessness. It would come out with maybe a little bit of an edge of aggression in my comments. And I'm going to say it again, repeating myself, but this is what was a game changer for me, is I stopped feeling like I had to prove myself. I stopped feeling that I had to be the smartest person in the room. And I built that up over time. It was a slow, kind of messy process of getting to like myself a bit more, not being ashamed of things that I didn't know how to do, and surrounding myself with people who were giving me positive feedback and positive reinforcement, saying, you're great at this, do more of that. Maybe you're not going to be the best security architect in the world. It's okay. We have lots, but you're really good at this. Do that. And having that kind of dual aspect of working on myself, my own self-awareness, my own self-respect, my own self-esteem, and getting the positive reinforcement of people who had my best interests at heart. Those two things are really powerful. We really need people around us who want us to succeed. So no longer feeling that, I still get challenged. I still find myself in rooms with sometimes very privileged, slightly aggressive, abrasive, not very pleasant individuals, but I don't allow it to bother me the way I used to. And one of the things, a technique that a coach gave me that I still use when I need to, coach had said to me one day, imagine someone you really admire. Okay, no, tell me who it is. And I said, Michelle Obama. And she said, okay, what is it about Michelle Obama that you really admire? And I said, she's graceful under fire, no matter what. They could be slinging insults at her. She never looks flustered. It rolls off her like Teflon. I said, right. So the next time you're in a situation where somebody is triggering you, where you're feeling that you're under fire, borrow her behavior. Pretend you're her. And just for that instant, when you need skin made of Teflon, be like Michelle Obama. So I did, and it works. And it feels weird to start with, but that behavior in certain situations, it's like muscle, like going to the gym. You start doing it once and it feels, eh. But now if I'm in a situation where I'm a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit unsure, I might be, experiencing some antagonism coming from someone, I borrow behavior from that role model that I chose for me, and it's super powerful. So there are little things like behavioral hacks that can just help, and it's an iterative process of building up a level of self-assurance so that I can show up in a room now anywhere, pretty much. And I don't feel breathless anymore, but I used to. So the Anne of 12 years ago would have been worried, would have been anxious, would have had a feeling in my stomach that was like, oh, I'm not at all sure that I should be here. And I've managed to neutralize that. So through work on myself, and that's work that all of us can do, and through having contact with good people, the combination of those is super powerful.
Thank you for sharing that, Anne. That's really sincere, and I can feel it here in my bones, and I'm sure it will be super helpful to everyone who's tuning in today or later. It's a guiding light. That's the least I can say about your story. I mean, before we close, let's talk a bit about technology. Actually, your other expertise about cloud and cloud transformation in financial services. So as you know, with AI now we have entered the next level of digitization. Everyone is rushing into to catch up with the latest developments, but a lot of companies are not there yet, right? So they're just doing their level 1, level 2, transformation. So how can companies and banks in financial services accelerate that growth, accelerate that transition?
So funnily enough, one of the things that I'm seeing as being a big positive driver in terms of accelerating transformation, we've been talking about digital transformation for a long time now. Billions have been spent on it. The results are really not great. Research has been done, and I think it was McKinsey that did this particular study where they identified the things that cause digital transformation projects to fail. But similarly, and I think this is the thing that I actually found way more interesting, was they found the things that where firms invest, it really shifts the dial in terms of driving the outcomes that they're looking for from their digital transformation programs. And it's things around data capabilities. So putting in place data architectures. And it's becoming all the more important now because firms are looking to utilize their data for AI. Its capabilities around cybersecurity and data privacy, and its capabilities around modernizing the infrastructure. And it's been difficult for organizations to build the business case, and even if they have the business case, to actually operationalize all of that so that it comes together in a really cohesive motion. What we're seeing in financial services is that there is a new regulatory drive around operational resilience, which is this idea that disruption is going to happen at some stage, and we have got to be prepared so that we're minimizing the impact. And it turns out that the same capabilities that are needed to be very good at operational resilience are the ones that shift the dial on digital transformation. So a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is accompanying financial institutions in Europe and elsewhere, because this is global. This trend towards operational resilience is a global one. Trying to figure out how can we be smart in appraising the technology landscape that we have, where we need to get to from a regulatory perspective, where do we want to get to from a business perspective, and how can we orchestrate capabilities and investments and sequence them so that we're not trading business benefits off for regulatory outcomes. We're bringing the two together. And it's possible. So the investments around data, the investments around portability, around workload placement, all of these things are levers that, done right, give financial institutions options. And I'm kind of replicating in the advisory input that I give to clients. I think about resilience in financial services much as I think about resilience for myself. It's about options. I never want to be pushed into a bad decision because I've got no options. I'm always thinking about what can I do that will be helpful no matter what. So it's why I build up skills, right? I sort of focus very heavily on building up a skill set in cybersecurity and getting certifications. They're going to be helpful no matter what. Similarly, if you are a financial institution and you're trying to build up options, well, how do you maybe architect your workloads? Do you use open source, for example? All of these things, it's a mindset of what can I do now with what I have, so that no matter what happens in an uncertain environment, I'm never going to be constrained so much that I end up taking a terrible decision because it's the only one I've got. So investing time and effort in these foundational capabilities, so that for projects involving AI, things that a little bit further down the line, we're going to be looking at post-quantum cryptography, quantum computing, all of these things. To be able to reap the benefits of them, there needs to be groundwork in place. And it requires sort of self-enlightened leadership and a certain level of patience and a willingness to think in systems. And I think that's one of the big things that will make the difference between the firms that are able to combine capabilities and combine regulatory objectives with business imperatives. It's that ability to go deep on particular topics and particular technologies, but have that big picture vision of how things can connect, like a jigsaw that fits really nicely together.
And I assume if you don't have the necessary skill set or the know-how to do this in-house, you can always outsource it, right? To make the right decision.
Yeah, but outsourcing it mindfully, I think, and that's what, particularly in financial services. I mean, I like to think it more in terms of leveraging an ecosystem. It's sort of the value of a community. Who is best placed to do a certain thing? And that brings huge benefits. Working with technology partners, service providers brings huge benefits. There's the flip side to it, which is you have to be really good at managing your vendor relationships and managing your third-party risk. It's a huge area of focus right now for policymakers and financial regulators. But everything is achievable. It just requires that the approach be correct and that there be consistency.
Indeed. And how do you balance cybersecurity in the meantime?
So cybersecurity, there's always this, how do we fit in security? Security slows things down. Security is a burden. I am a big advocate in challenging those kind of false truths, right? Which is, there's always a way. It requires a commitment to doing the right thing. And that's one of the things that we are really committed to in IBM Cloud, which is breaking that double bind of wanting to move fast and take full advantage of cutting edge technology and not wanting to get slowed down by security and risk management. So that's the focus of, I think, everything that we do in IBM Cloud for Financial Services, is making sure that the clients that we work with can take full advantage at speed of the public cloud, and that they're making no trade-offs in terms of the security outcomes and the risk management obligations that they have. There is a way. There absolutely is a way we're doing it, but it does require a commitment to an outcome, and it requires collaboration that is real in terms of the behavior, in terms of the responsibilities of how the shared responsibility of how people work together. But I think the Simon Sinek is an author that I read a lot and respect a lot, and he has a quote that I'm going to misquote here because I can't remember the exact words, but it's essentially, people do business with people who believe what they believe. And I think that kind of characterizes a lot of what we do in IBM Cloud Financial Services. So we believe security is super important. And we believe you shouldn't have to make a trade-off between moving fast in the cloud and being super secure while you do it.
Excellent. And thank you Thanks a lot for joining today, for sharing your insights and also your inspiring story. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but since our concept is short and sweet, we have to cut here, but it was already super insightful. So I would love to have you here again, and I thank you again for being so open and honest.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you opening up your platform to me.
Thank you.